Hi, I'm Filip Noterdaeme, and I'm here to talk about Echoes by Eric Doeringer. Echoes is occurring in conjunction with an exhibit at the Guggenheim Museum titled On Kawara, Silence, which debuted or began, I believe, on February 6, 2015, and will continue until May 3rd. And Eric has offered to spend the exact same number of days of the retrospective at the Guggenheim to dedicate his entire output solely to a continuing reflection, meditation on the work of On Kawara. The whole exhibit that is now on view, and which is closing today, has unfolded progressively with these date paintings over the course of now 3 weeks. Each date painting, like with On Kawara, is accompanied by a box, handmade, and lined with a clip from the New York Times. If you look at On Kawara, Silence at the Guggenheim, it both celebrates On Kawara, it is a retrospective, but it also seems to be existing on this idea or this notion that On Kawara is no longer alive. And I like the way Eric defies this and is inscribing his own work in a continuum. And so I think it's very significant that Eric is basically telling us that in terms of a pure consciousness, On Kawara is alive and well today in New York City. And I think that's the most beautiful tribute you can give to any artist. How does he do this? By transforming what is now, by many accounts, something that is already dated. If you take any date painting, including Eric's, you can easily see that February 6th, which was just a few weeks ago, is already theoretically past. But we forget that each one of these paintings were made in the present tense. And this is where I see this link between On Kawara and Eric. He is in an act of recreation, and recreation means it's once more and anew. It's not a copy, it's not, in that sense, a reproduction of On Kawara. It's a recreation. It's a kind of once more. These date paintings are daunting in that they're conundrums, in that they're very abstract and they're very concrete. And we could think of them as history paintings or as a form of hyperrealism, as a window into our history, as highly personal. They're the fruit of labor of a single artist. In a way, what I like is also the spaces in between. Like, this is everything that's fit to paint on February 16th, everything that's fit to print. But there's also the in-between those two, right? There's the unsaid, the unspoken, these series that you see on view with the I Went, which is also recreated, so it's once more, it's anew, it's on that day, February 6, 2015, Eric, we can sort of see, went from home to his studio, painted that very painting, February 6th, and probably came over here at some point to deliver the goods. And I think it's important to keep in mind that the show was unfolding over the course of 3 weeks. So the whole notion of time is embedded in the very topography of the exhibit, beginning from here and ending on the other side of the wall. Then the people he met on any given day, including here a fairly long list beginning with a certain Cathay. I have no idea who she is. Following up with a Mario. Some of these are complete strangers. And then here and there you can sort of bump onto a familiar name like Kenneth Goldsmith, the conceptual writer, or a friend, a common friend of ours, Colby Chamberlain. There is also a binder collecting everything he read over the course of these past weeks. And then, of course, the postcards. The postcards are here on view. I got up at, marking the moment of consciousness, awakening, and repeat it every single day without it being a complete repetition. We go from 6:46 a.m. to 7:20. For a fairly early riser to be able to complete all these different tasks. On Kawara never said, this is my work, this belongs to me, this is my body. It's almost like the very opposite. It's like it's passing this on to us and inviting us to reckon with the passage of time. It goes completely against the grain of what most institutions are sort of promoting in terms of the artist is dead. The work is now enshrined.
Right, you're right.
And it's a done deal, and it's basically off limits. Eric comes in and says no to all of that, or he says I'd rather try it, and then it becomes a performance, a continuation, and it is a continuation, and it's very interesting how it gives us a chance to actually reacquaint ourselves with what is truly unique to On Kawara. I see him as performing an autopsy on the body, and the body of the artist is not a physical person, it's the work.
It's the body of work.
It's the body of work. And an autopsy, if you go to the root of autopsy, is Greek for seeing for yourself. And Eric for me is someone who has a discipline of seeing for himself. It's a two-pronged thing. It's creating a space for the other, being On Kawara and his practice within Eric, and then Eric giving himself to this task. So it's almost as if he's like allowing for another body to invade his body and his mind. And it's lived. And it's his time. It's nobody else's time. It's not On Kawara's time. It's Eric Doeringer's time. It's his labor, his efforts become the culture that allows for this consciousness that is On Kawara to go on living and go on challenging all of us, because this is still pertinent. I showed this to students of mine, the newspaper clippings, and they looked at it as antiques. For them, this is already antiquated, and we're talking February 12th, 2015. So what?
Because it's on paper?
Because it's on paper, it's no longer part of their own daily experience of news. What was interesting with the students who came and saw the show is that they felt like this they understood better than works from the 60s by On Kawara, because they lived within that time frame, this very time frame. And they felt like, okay, the proxy of that made it somewhat more accessible for them.
More contemporary.
Ever more contemporary.